This is a search in the obscurity and darkness of uncertainty, in which a subjective certainty is gradually achieved through the laborious process of the search itself. This quote from Juhani Pallasmaa tries to articulate the value and acceptance of hesitation and unknowability in the creative endeavor. There are two key words we take from this statement: uncertainty and labor, as we try to define what architectural labor truly means to us and the uncertain ways in which it operates. We embarked upon the question on the primacy of the drawing and examined it through the works of architects and philosophers. For instance, Rema Pietala and his metaphorical comparison of the architectural process with that of hunting and fishing, where he says, "You cannot be certain what you are going to catch, or if you will catch anything at all." We examine carefully the seminal role of the absent-minded hand and its seemingly unconscious and aimless act of play in sketching through works of. Pallasmaa believes that drawing, far from being an aimless activity, is a deeply engaged and embodied exercise, and he equates this craft of architecture with the creative labor of thinking. Creative thinking is labor in the proper sense of the word, he says, and goes on to describe the messiness of it, how he likes to see the stains, traces, and dirt of his work as he is developing an idea. This element of undecidedness and the obscurity of one's thought is what sets architecture apart from a mere search for rational and logical solutions for problems, but as means to achieve more than what is anticipated from the process, more than the culmination of the process in the act of building. In fact, the built work is simply the subjective clarity arrived at a moment. The idea far outlives the building and is perpetual in nature. Perhaps this notion is better described with the work of the Italian radical architecture collective, Superstudio, and their infamous refusal to work and participate in architectural design. Their reasons for seceding from architectural production at a time when the international movement was still at its peak, and their need to claim creative autonomy and sovereignty may have been quite radical, but the consequent result of it has been a monument to the perpetuity of architectural ideas. Although they abstained from building, their labor never did, and was instead directed into subverted ideological pursuits. They simply replaced the assumed output of an architectural pursuit with other products and left us with a plethora of drawings, images, objects, films, magazine spreads, and museum exhibition displays that provoke modern sensibilities and remain just as relevant today as when they were envisioned. Heavily criticized during their time, Superstudio's work was often reduced to a pointless, romantic, and naive provocation, going so far as to even question the validity of attaching the moniker of architect to someone who does not engage in the assumed architectural production, synonymous only with building. It makes us wonder, what counts as architectural labor? Is it the act of building, or the built idea that truly defines architectural practice? Perhaps it is as Alberto Campo Baeza explains in his book, The Built Idea, architecture without ideas is empty. Forms are destroyed over time, but ideas remain and are eternal. This is perhaps a testament to the shift in architectural practice which happened in the Renaissance era, when architecture moved from the realm of master craftsmen and masons to the realm of drawings, through which ideas, thoughts, and imaginations could be transmitted and shared worldwide. Through this paper, we are trying to demonstrate the origin of our practice based on this notion of drawing, which began with our first and most pivotal project, the 150-year-old Kappimadam, a typical agrarian Brahmin dwelling situated along the banks of the Meenachal River in IIA Kerala. A fitting project that brought together New World aspirations on an Old World order. It had been passed down to its fourth generation inheritors, who wanted it repurposed to support their modern lifestyle and aesthetic sensibilities. In the process of maintaining simultaneous validity of the past and the present, we conducted several geometrical operations on the drawing and introduced architectural type forms such as walls and towers. Although received with great passion, the idea never took form, and after a painstaking year of drawings and conservation work on site, Kappimadam was demolished to be replaced by a concrete structure. The project and the old structure are now lost, yet it was in its absence that it exerted the most profound impact on our practice. Kappimadam now moved to its afterlife, insinuated the melancholy of its loss in various forms of drawings, artwork, and graphical renderings, and continued to inform our design process. Our method of drawing is developed in this premise, where projects, whether built or unbuilt, are ever present in an imaginary metaphysical plane, frequently re-emerging in other projects in different forms and functions. Recurring elements and ideas emerge episodically and find new meanings. We believe that the built form is but one momentary reality of an idea and that the idea continues to live on and inform our thought. If architecture in its making is timeless, can we not say the same about ideas? We believe that the true form of architectural practice is not one of absolutes, but of constantly confronting ideas and their various incarnations through drawings. For this reason, we find it equally validating to define our practice through the medium of drawing as much or more than the act of building. Drawing is the true labor. Fields of Muziris is a series of map-based composite drawings that try to establish that truth is not an absolute, and it is plausibility that adds to the imagination. In a fabled town like Muziris, fluctuating between truth, interpretation, and fabrication, this exercise offers a particularly exciting opportunity. The stories that allude to this ancient port city lie in disparate fragments, but more importantly, it is continually distorted by academic, political, and cultural appropriation rendered by various interest groups. It is impossible to create a complete picture of it from a neutral ground. And this presents a curious vantage point to regard history from a distance, read the fragments of the city beyond its material remains, and use drawing as a temporal spatial tool to practice the remembering of lost land and its imagined future. It began with explorations on the city of Milan with the understanding that a city is never one rationalized reading, but consisting of multiple imprints within itself, like the red arrow marks on the columns of Galleria next to Duomo, indicating the presence of underground bunkers during airstrikes. Fields of Muziris explores new methods for speculating on archaeology, architecture, and the representability of memory, and paves the way for multimedia compositions as a new way of mapping cities. While we accept that images sometimes run the risk of being the only physical imprint of a project, we regard the role of drawing to make one's gaze more receptive to multiple interpretations, versions, and environments. Through a process of collaging, spaces, objects, landscapes, actors move between reality and a fictional world, where projects are sometimes conceived or steered onto new paths. The true craft of our architectural practice is this method of opening up innumerable opportunities for every project, every drawing. The rigor, discipline, and craft of architecture are exercised not only through the act of building space in real time, but reimagining the project in numerous ways on a metaphysical plane. Therefore, projects, ideas, and drawings are constantly rebirthing, not simply as creations, but also as a tool for thinking. We believe that the building is simply the drawing existing in one of its life forms. For instance, in the 1990 house, the finality of the building is questioned by its nature of being a composite of layers and fragments, unifying the past, present, and future. As Alberto Campobaeza says, the form of built architecture has a universal quality that needs no translation. While architecture is conveyed by the universality of the built work, the logic from which it originates is all too often hidden, concealed. It is this hidden knowledge that we seek constantly, diligently. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's move on to the question and answer session.
Very well done.
Thank you.
Is this any research that you are, any formal PhD or something?
Part of it is, Fields of Muziris actually started as a thesis project, but it's now part of the research. it is actually more of a speculative process that we have been doing for years through this medium of drawing. So we are trying to formalize it in many ways. So the three categories we showed, we don't see them as categories, but they are different ways of using drawings as expressions for our practice.
One small observation that I have is that now we have gone from the hand to the computer drawing. So is there some emphasis that you would lay on the aspect of hand drawing, or would it be part and parcel of something else?
In fact, all the
Yeah,
we actually use very basic tools to do these drawings. But I think that also brings an interesting question, right? I mean, we might be looking at a world later on that where we may not always build. We might be thinking of the virtual always. So I think that reinforces the idea of the importance of drawings and thinking through drawings. So I think that is where we are headed. But we've been, we practice this with very basic tools. Yeah. Sorry? I know I'm not sorry.
So, a couple of things with respect to this. One is that the drawings that we make and plasma retrospect are drawings that get understood by a larger community because the protocols that were specified, either they are sketches, in which case they are easier to read, and
Yeah.
there are math sections, they have protocols which at least the community architects can read.
Yeah.
Maybe not others, but at least the community. You're moving into a realm of drawings for which there are no established protocols of reading.
Right.
Right? So, when we say that these drawings are communicating architecture, are they works of art by themselves?
Yeah.
Communicating for themselves? Or are they, is the purpose to communicate space?
Actually, I think we see the purpose as a, as a very integral part of our practice itself. It's more of a retrospective process for us. So sometimes.
It has to go like with Advana's collages are effectively leading towards space.
Yes, that's one of our references as well. Yeah, the collaging aspect of it.
My point is that for you now, what are these?
So for us, it's more like once for us, the collage, especially the collaging process, very rarely happens during the project. It usually happens after the project. So for us, it's a retrospective process where we look back at the project and we see other variations of it, other interpretations of it, which go into our our intuition later on, and it re-emerges sometimes later in other projects.
And so I'm running a studio which does that. I'm using all kinds of processes of all kinds of drawings. And not, at the end of the studio, we actually do. Last time we didn't even draw a proper plan.
Right.
And I feel it's important because, one, there are narratives which are important to be told now, apart from the hard facts and the data.
Right.
So somewhere you will be able to capture narratives which retrospectively, yes, you may do that, but it will not necessarily so good.
Right. I think so that aspect, right? I believe elements of this keep surfacing in our work. So if you were to look at if you were to look at a cross section of our work, you will see all of these recurring. Yeah, but that for us that is a conscious process as well.
Make it being foregrounded rather than doing retrospective.
Right. Yeah.
I think in the hurry to build a building or to see the project on ground, the architect forgets this whole act of drawing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that's where you need to step back and start seeing the building before in its drawings and variations of those drawings, and these as also Neil said, that what is the public interpreting the building or the design or the drawing, and what does the drawing in itself say? Is it a process or is it an end in itself? The drawing can be an end in itself. Why not?
Yeah, it can be. Actually, it's funny because For us, I think if you look at our projects, the drawings far outnumber our built projects. So for us, I think the drawings are more important. I mean, that is the main process that we focus on. The built works are actually few, and that also gets refined through this thinking, through drawing as well. So.
Good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very good.